for taking a couple of minutes to think through some ideas about our relationship with Christ. Sunday at church, I presented a thought to people, and some are starting to grasp what I'm saying and kind of apply it to their lives and see how it works with them and maybe with their families. And I've been talking about cynics being made, and gave a definition of a cynic that's not like a dictionary definition. It's more like just kind of life experience. And I said a cynic is a person who makes up their mind, and there is no evidence that you can present that will change their mind. And so Sunday I began to talk about the conversion. Can God change a cynic? And I began with the conclusion, which is, of course, he can. And we're using the Apostle Paul as an example, who was a chief cynic of the way back then, the followers of Christ. And so today I want to just give a little more for people to think about. I shared with you Sunday that cynics are made and that they are indoctrinated. And in fact, they are indoctrinated primarily through systems of higher education. And then I threw out this gasp that the other institution that indoctrinates people is the church. We didn't spend much time on it. I just kind of threw it out there and left it hanging. And then a friend of mine said this, that basically the reason I know so much about this is because I am this. And I'm like, exactly. That's exactly right. Once I make up my mind, there is no evidence you can give to me to change my mind. The difference between a person who is a cynic and is against God and someone like me is, I am for God. And so the Apostle Paul puts it like this. He has such a great way of thinking through this because he is that. It's exactly right. He is that. And so he was transformed. And so now there is no evidence you can give Paul to convince him that Jesus isn't real. There's nothing you can do. You can't say, do anything that's going to change his mind. And that's really what God's after. It's kind of strange for us to think that God is after people who will not be persuaded off the rock. We stand firm. Paul puts it like this. He says, when I come to you, I may not have to be as bold as I expect towards some people who think that we live by the standards of the world. For though we live in the world, we don't wage war as the world does. The weapons that we fight with are not weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. We take captive every thought in order to make it obedient to Christ. Wow. God needs people who are not going to be persuaded. And, you know, I used to teach rhetorical writing, logic, argument. I taught people how to argue. And we're to a point in our culture where those tools have become almost irrelevant. And it's very obvious that we are in a spiritual battle between two sides, both of whom will not be persuaded. Will not be persuaded. And I shared, and I had two people actually text me about this. I shared the idea that the only way that you can be transformed and become what God wants you to be. It's not through logic. It's not through argument. It's not even through experience. It is supernatural. And it is truly a gift from God. If you believe that God created this world and everything in it, and that he sent his son Jesus to bring us home, that is supernatural. And I'm thankful that I've lived my life by that standard.